It's been slightly over 4 weeks since he officially took the reins of Absa Bank Kenya, and he joins me live now for his first television interview on Power Talk. Abdi Mohamed, who's the CEO of Absa Bank Kenya. Thank you so much for making time for us on Power Talk.
Thank you, Yvonne, and good evening to you and your viewers.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to have you. Let's get straight into it. Abdi, I think never before in the country have we seen just about everybody engaging in debate on the state of our economy. I would like to know from you as a captain of industry, what are your thoughts around, Kenya's economy? What's the outlook in your view? What are the areas of growth, opportunity, and maybe areas we should prioritize?
Yeah, I think, Yvonne, when you think about the economy, especially in this connected world that we live in, it's good to first start from the global perspective. You would have seen over the last couple of years, 3 or 4 years, the global economy has gone through quite a number of stress events, starting with the COVID-19 issue, and that was 2-3 years. And more recently, for the last 1.5 years, we've had the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And this has had a significant impact on the global economy. More recently, we've had the inflation issue that's affecting the global economy, and a lot of central banks, across the world, taking action to raise the benchmark rates. Of course, the most significant being the Fed rates in the United States, that has affected currency markets across the world. And so that's the overall picture. When you now come into Kenya, there are a number of areas in which, relatively speaking, and we are speaking relatively, the Kenyan economy still shows some amount of resilience. For example, when you look at the GDP growth numbers that even the IMF is projecting for 2023, Kenya is still north of 5%, higher than the sub-Saharan Africa average, much higher than the global average. Inflation still in the single-digit range, came down from 9 to about 7.9%. because of some of the actions taken by the Monetary Policy Committee. And, with the rains and the ongoing agricultural, activity, expected to be within that range. So there are some good aspects of it. However, there are areas where, of course, there is stress and there is difficulty. You see the commodity prices, food prices, fuel prices getting impacted. And therefore, that is the overall dynamic. There's a global issue. It's affecting many countries. Kenya is part of that dynamic. There are certain aspects to be optimistic about. But yes, the reality is that it is a challenging environment. And for me, the key message really is, yes, it's a tough period for the global economy, a tough period for the Kenyan economy. But at the same time, we've been through cycles, and I take a lot of encouragement from a client of mine, of ours in Absa that I met yesterday evening, who told me, they have been in business since 1973 and have banked with us since 1973. And he said that we've been through many cycles, we've worked with you through these cycles, and I'm confident, he said he's confident, that this is one more that we'll get through. Yeah. And that really encouraged me. But, that's where we are.
And that's interesting. We're talking about cycles. So let's talk about Absa's cycles for a moment. 3 years ago, or a little over 3 years ago, Absa had a different name, different brand, different colors. Take us through that cycle. It's been 3 years since February 2020, when you rebranded. And perhaps this is not just of Absa, but banks in general are seen to be elitist, and, for a certain class of people and not for others. Who is Absa today, and who do you cater to?
So you got it right. 3 years ago, we went through one of the biggest brand transitions that this continent of Africa has ever seen. It was done in multiple countries, transitioning from our old brand to the new brand. We have a rich heritage as a company. In Kenya, we opened our first branch in Mombasa in 1916. So we celebrated 100 years in 2016. And through this period, we've worked with this country, with our clients in this country, with the stakeholders in this country, through many different periods of our history. And when we got to this point where we transitioned into the new Absa brand, we've carried through a lot of that heritage, but we've turned up over the last 3 years as an African brand that is passionate about Africa, passionate about Kenya, ready to work with our clients in all the sectors of the economy. And you would have seen some of the work that we've done in SME, for example, which is a very, very important sector for the economy. We've done a lot of work, providing financial support, providing training to the SME sector. And there's a specific focus in certain areas. So, for example, women SMEs, that's a very specific area that we've worked on, something that I'm personally very passionate about. And we've provided training and support in the last 6 months for about 40 to 50,000 women in Kenya in 10 different counties. And this is still an ongoing process. So it's not just about lending, but it's also support and helping them to work through their requirements for markets, for example, helping them to network and learn from each other, do business events. And, we've done a lot of work in that segment. That's a good example.
Why the focus on SMEs? Why is that important to you?
It's important to us for different reasons. The first reason is it's a very important part of the economy. 50% of GDP. 80% of employment in this country is provided by SMEs. But it's also important to us because it's about aspiration. It's about helping, you can do the numbers and say we've done 50,000, 100,000. But at the end of the day, it comes down to one business story, one young woman who wants to become better, who wants to grow her business, one young man who's left college who wants to build his own enterprise. And how can we help those people? That's one of the big items. Of course, we're still doing business in the corporate banking area where we've done traditionally, and we have a large corporate bank that is very well represented across the East Africa region. As you know, we have presence in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Southern Africa, in West Africa. And therefore, we bring that to our corporate clients. and that's another big area that we're working on. We're looking at the youth market. And, there's a lot of young people who are coming into the market, either as startups or newly employed into the market. How can we get them to achieve their dreams? That's another area that we're focusing on.
Yeah. Let me talk about, Absa Bank and your performance, at least for the first quarter of this year. A net profit of 4.5 billion shillings. The value of your total assets is now, you've crossed the 500 billion, shillings mark. And that's impressive for a bank such as yours. But I also want to talk about, the other side for customers, with the central bank survey talking about one of the sharpest increases in loan defaults. So, there's that sort of dichotomy of a story of banks that are doing well, but also their customers that are struggling. What does that tell you about, where we are and perhaps where we need to be?
I think it's back to what we said earlier about the macroeconomy and, where we are in general, not just in Kenya, but across the board. And for us, as a banking industry, we are in the business of ensuring that we support our customers. Risk is part of it. You want your non-performing loans to be, lower, and that's always the effort. And if you look at Absa, for example, still in the single digit, we're fairly stringent about how we support our customers through this period. But whenever we have non-performing facilities, again, as an organization, we have specific support units within the organization that help customers, whether they are large corporates, SMEs, individuals who are salaried who may be going through difficulty through that period. In fact, this week I met one of the customers that we supported through debt rescheduling. during the COVID period. You know, they're in the hotel industry, they had major issues, and we rescheduled a lot of their debts during that period. And customers remember that because it means you are there with them through the difficult period. So overall, the expectation, of course, is as things improve, that NPLs will come down, and we've seen them go through that cycle. But certainly when you look at Absa's numbers, we are much lower than the industry average, and it's something that we watch very carefully, and, you know, we drive.
Yeah. You know, from the 1st of May to today, you're, I think, arguably one of the newest CEOs in town. People would like to know, who is Abdi Mohamed? What's your story? How did you make it here, you know, to be at the helm of Absa Bank Kenya? Who is Abdi Mohamed?
Yeah, I've been in Absa for a number of years, 28 years. I've worked in four different countries, including our country, Kenya. I've served the organization in many different capacities, and therefore there's a lot of history there. And whenever I talk to young people, I share the story. But for me, what really fires me up, and the thing that I think about every day, is the future. It's the next step. It's the vision for the organization, the vision for myself, the vision for our customers. And what really keeps me awake is making sure every customer is supported, transactions are done properly. I don't like to go home without making sure everything has been done well. And I obsess about customers. You know, in the month that I've been here, I've met many of our customers across the board, from the largest corporates. I was in Kawangware a few weeks ago. I met some of our SME customers there. And I met a young man and his wife who ran a spares shop there, are doing good business. We've supported them over the years. He goes to Dubai, China regularly to import spares. And he told me his story. He said that 10 years ago, I started working as a mechanic on Kirinyaga Road, I think it's called Grogan, where they do all the repairs. And he has grown from there to run 2 spare shops and is doing a pretty good business. That is the spirit that really keeps me going. Whenever I see those type of customer stories, that is what keeps me going. Because if we build them, if we help them grow their business, we grow as a bank. And that is what you want. You want the banking industry to grow because the wider economy is growing. And you know, that's what keeps me going. But in terms of my history, 28 years, lots of different jobs in the bank, including being a teller, being a branch manager, and now being the chief executive. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And we look forward to see, you know, where you take Absa Bank Kenya, and, you know, what the journey will be like over your tenure. Thank you for making time for us here on Power Talk. Congratulations once again. 1 month in, many, many more to go. Asante sana.
Thank you, Yvonne. It's very good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you. Abdi Mohamed, the MD and CEO of Absa Bank Kenya, joining us on Power Talk.